Welcome to Fraction of a Teacher, the podcast where two trainee maths teachers navigate the wild world of teaching, equations, and everything in between. I'm Francis.
And I'm Jen. Join us as we reflect, share stories, and have a laugh about life in the classroom. Whether you're thinking about starting a career in education, a trainee teacher in the thick of it all, or just curious about what it takes to shape young minds, you're in the right place. So let's dive in. Hey, you are listening to episode 2, where we are talking about job hunting. It's early February. We've had a few lectures and talks from head teachers, recruitment consultants. A few of us have got jobs from placement A. We've just entered placement B, and neither me and Francis have jobs. So we thought this would be a really good time to talk about how we're approaching job hunting, if we're even approaching job hunting.
So this is definitely at the front of my mind now. I think suddenly it feels like this is something we should be thinking about, and the tricky bit, taking the action, looking at job adverts, how do you decide what to apply for, and then what happens when you do. So it'd be great to talk through it with you as we share that bit of this journey together.
Do we have a starter? I feel like I'm otherwise going to jump straight in with my feelings, as I always do.
Have you got a mini whiteboard ready?
I have an iPad which I can turn to a whiteboard. Does that count?
Yeah, okay. So class, get mini whiteboards and pens. Wipe down your mini whiteboards if they've been left for the last lesson. This may start a challenge for you today. I would like you to write down 3 things which will be critical to your decision for your first teaching job. Think about the school, the department, the teaching.
Well, that's a good question.
I think 20 seconds on that. Okay, class, you're getting on well, and we're going to be showing those mini whiteboards in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, whiteboard's up. I love it. Did you pre-plan that?
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
I love it. Go on, you go first. What have you got?
I wrote the ethos, the people, and the curriculum. The first one is the ethos, and this is the school ethos. I feel like this is a really important aspect of me, because I think I said in the last podcast that I really want to be authentic and I really want to make an impact, and I would be looking for that kind of theme in the ethos of the school. So striving for excellence, always developing a positive environment. I feel like a lot of things get covered under the ethos of the school. I think that's really important for me as an individual. The second is the people. I definitely feel that the relationships I develop with my colleagues at my job will lead directly to me feeling secure and help me develop my identity as a teacher. So with that in mind, I would definitely say the people, and getting a feel off the people. Can I start drawing connections with them? Are they personable? Are they welcoming? That's going to be quite big for me. And the third one is the curriculum. A well-designed curriculum that's thought about not just what they're teaching, but the level of detail. We've seen a few schools now. We went to a research school where every lesson was planned collaboratively, and then I've been to some schools where it's just a list of topics. I know that if I'm looking at the curriculum, I'm understanding how they want their teachers to teach. So I'm not looking at what they're teaching. I'm looking at the structure of it. I'm looking at the level of detail that's been included in that. So those 3 things will be the things that I'm looking for at a job interview.
I love it. Ethos has got to be critical. How do you judge the ethos? So, there's quite a few jobs being advertised locally at schools, commutable for both of us. I think the tricky thing for me is, how do you judge the ethos, particularly without visiting the school?
It's about what they put on their website. I've looked at some schools locally, and a lot of the website is it either needs updating, or it's really almost very sparkly and fancy. And I'm not all about something that's sparkly and fancy, but something that has up-to-date information, something that celebrates its students, and there's lots of achievements on there and what they're doing and putting their pupils out there. And even in the policies, I remember in my placement A, the first line of the behavior management policy was smile. And I was like, this is a place I can see myself because I'm always smiling. So I feel like that to me is what I'm looking for. And I think when you have an ethos that's like, I want to excel, I want to inspire, and your first word in your behavior management is smiling, I see that across the whole school then.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that kind of coherence. And I suppose if you then get to the stage of visiting the school, it's like checking, does what they've said they're going to do, does what you've got externally, when you go there, does it feel like they live those values? So, yeah, I love it.
I think a lot of that will then feed into my questions about the ECT program. What's it like? How organized it? Is it internal or is it external? A lot of that comes from the interview. But I think my first initial vibe comes from what they're putting out there to everybody.
I love it.
Okay.
Awesome.
What about you? Hit me with it.
Well, I got three sort of things. I think there's a lot of overlap, actually. The first one I put is welcoming. Mm-hmm. And I think that comes from, you pick that up in lots of ways, whether it's an outward-looking school based on their activities and their website and that first engagement, meeting the people, if you get through to that stage. I feel like it's got to be welcoming, because if you're an early career teacher, you're going to need that support. You want to be in a place that's keen to have you. So for me, does it feel welcoming? Do you feel like you're going to belong? I put positive, and I think that links to a lot of what you were saying about the ethos. I worked for a boss once who asked three things from everyone in the team. He said, you need to be positive, proactive, and proud of what you do. And I really like those three: positive, proactive, and proud. I think if you've got the positive outlook, then that just sets you off for being outward looking, for improvement, for, as you say, the smile at the start of your behaviour policy, the glass half full, not half empty view. So for me, somewhere that's welcoming, somewhere that's positive. And I'll be honest, the other one is location. I'm really keen not to end up with a big commute. I don't really like driving a lot, but it's also about being good at the job. If I'm losing a lot of time driving each day, it's tricky for me to put as much into the job and into family life as I'd like. It's about finding the right location that's not going to make it too tricky to be my best. So yeah, that's my sort of three things, really. I think a bit of overlap with yours.
I would definitely agree. So both of us are looking for practical things, looking after our home life and making sure that we're looking after ourselves, but also wanting to enjoy ourselves. What I really like about your answers is we're not looking at perfect behavior. There's so much research out there that says the environment that you put yourself in has so much weight to the professional you are. Given how vulnerable we are right now to external factors like our mentors, the school environment we're in, we're constantly trying to adapt and create this teaching philosophy. And then I feel we both want to be in a school where that teaching philosophy can be celebrated rather than dampened down.
I think when it comes to ethos and the mindset and the positivity, I'd far rather work in a school that had real challenges, that wasn't performing well academically, that had challenging behaviour, pupils with challenging family circumstances and backgrounds. I'd far rather work in a school with the kind of challenge that had the right attitude to do something really positive for those kids than I would work in a school where behaviour was great and results were brilliant, but they were much more complacent. So I think for me, it's about where you want to get to and being positive in that than where you are right now. It's pretty exciting, but also, I'll be honest, a bit daunting. We've done, 3 months in the school, and we've taught a fair bit. We've got experience in one school, and we're trying to make a decision now that's probably the next couple of years worth of work. We won't start the job till September. So there's a bit of me that feels, where do you start? How do we actually go about this? We've got some ideas on the kind of school we want to work in, but what have you done so far? How are you going about the more practical nuts and bolts of finding a job?
I'm not looking for a job right now. I'm keeping my eye open, looking at websites, but I've not applied to a single school. I've made my personal statement, had our PGC meant to look over it, just in case the school comes up, so I feel ready. But I'll be honest, I don't feel ready. I don't feel secure in knowing what school I want to be in. I've had 3 months of one school, which I loved, and I would have absolutely taken a job there had they had a job opening. But I was glad that I wasn't able to take a job before seeing placement be, because I don't want to know just what a good school is. I want to know the types of schools out there. I am definitely anxious about applying for a job and getting that decision wrong. For me, coming from the field of psychology, where you take a job, it's gold dust to get a job, to now being the gold dust, it's really hard for me to transition that mindset. I feel like I have decision paralysis right now, where I'm not making a single decision because I don't know how to. So I'm just not until I feel ready.
But I know it's going to work out for you. I think you're right, though. If you haven't got to that stage, then there's no rush. I think there'll be loads of other people out there probably experiencing a similar. You're seeing jobs advertised. You've got peers who are applying for jobs. A couple of people we know got jobs already, and there's that sort of shouldn't we be doing something? The impression I get is that what are we, early February? There will be plenty more jobs out there, plenty more good jobs, great jobs coming up. Yeah. So actually, we don't need a rush to find any job. We've probably got a bit of time to find the right job.
I would agree. And I think location is so much. I've moved down to the South Coast to do the PGCE. So, and being American, I feel like location is just a postcode. I've moved my whole life. I'd like to stay in the South Coast, but if the ideal job came up elsewhere, I would speak with my partner and have a discussion about it. I'm not afraid to make that leap. With you, you have a family. Location is really key for you. You have to be really mindful. If that job comes up, you've almost got to jump. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, and I think I've got a bit of a feel for schools locally. There's a few I know that if a job came up, I'd probably be certain to apply. But I'm also cautious of getting too set a small number of schools. And there's a chance that not all of them need maths teachers. There's a chance that I can apply for one and not get it. I'm actively looking, and I think when one of those schools that could work really well for me comes up, that's when I want to move fairly quickly, apply, and look to secure a job that meets my welcoming, positive school in the right location. So I've been looking at the government website. It's actually really good for jobs. I've set up an alert on that, a 25-mile radius from home. Council websites, TES, Times Educational Supplement. I've set up a search and getting alerts. That's been pretty handy. Each week I've seen quite a few come through. I've been doing a bit of research on just literally starting off with a map and looking at what schools are where. And there's a lot of schools in the area, so identifying which ones have I heard of, which ones could I find out more about. And it's great talking to others on the course who've had placements there. I feel like I'm trying to build up that schema, that picture, the kind of mind map of what schools there are, what they're like, and where they've got jobs. Yeah, early days still.
Have you applied for any jobs?
So yes, and this is the point I didn't.
Sorry, that was a loaded question because I knew that you had applied for a job.
The fun thing is, in like a week or two's time, you better ask me if I actually got the job. Having just had a rough idea what was going on, no job leapt out to me until just over a week ago, where one of the jobs in one of the schools that's got, I think, the qualities I'm looking for came up, and I have applied. It was quite funny because, like you, I'd done a generic work, so done a personal statement, covering letter, and CV, and had those ready to go. And then I think it was a sign that I really wanted the job. I put a fair bit of effort into really reviewing those in light of what the specific school did, what it stood for. I managed to arrange a quick visit to the school and meet a couple of the maths department, and that was awesome. And that really helped me think about it. Is it what I want? And then articulate why I think I could actually be a fit there. Yeah. I'm in the process for that one, but that's the only one so far that I've applied for. So I will let you know how it goes. But yeah,
you're brave to talk about it prior to your interview. What was your process? Talk me a little bit through your process. You found the school. Where did you go from there? Did you go straight to the application form? Did you contact them? What did you do first?
So it was advertised on the government website, and therefore I got an alert in my inbox. I saw a maths teacher job at this school. Clicked on that, and then it had a whole load of details, linked to the school website, and told you how to apply. You sign up for an account, which is how you get the alerts. You log in. There were two ways to follow it. One was to apply straight away, and the other was it said if you want to visit the school, get in touch, and we can try and arrange a visit. So I gave them a call, and they were really helpful, keen, and enthusiastic about a visit. So I went over there to see them, and then came back home, did a bit of work on the application form that included the personal statement, but within it, and single document filled that all out, and then sent that in by email to the school. So far, it's been very slick, very clear, very professional, and it just feels like it could move quite quickly. I think within the next week or two, I'll have a decision, and then I'll know whether that's where I'm going or I need to keep looking. I think the experience of that will be pretty useful as well, and knowing how that process works. At the very least, I'll come out with some experience of that process. That's sort of where I've got to so far.
Amazing. 2 questions. First question, did you speak to the PGC mentor about the school? Would it be a good fit for you, or did you just go off your gut instinct?
So a bit of both. So I got in touch with the school before I chose the PGC mentor. It's been great having the guidance they've offered throughout, and I knew that they'd know the school pretty well, training in the local area. So that was really useful to him about the school as well. And he was able to give me some pointers and background, which was really valuable. And he's been great throughout looking at draft personal statement and so on. So, yeah, definitely talk to him about it. Others on the course as well. A couple of people on the course have had a look through my personal statement and given me some thoughts and feedback, which has been, I feel lucky that we're not all applying in the same area for the same schools. So it's been great to be able to share that.
Amazing. I think you're right. I would definitely send you or a few others my personal statement when I pick a school. And my second question is, how do you feel about going in for an interview having been out of teaching for a little while now? We're in school B now, but we're not teaching yet. So we're, for the benefit of the listeners, we've kind of very early days in school B, about to go into a second ITAP week. How do you feel about going for a job interview without, not rusty, but it's been, 6 weeks since teaching a lesson?
So, yeah, it's been great being at uni, having the time to kind of reflect, step back from the day-to-day of teaching and really talk and think. Yeah, I'm a bit nervous. The interview typically is going to involve elements of interview, talking with people, being asked questions, probably a tour of the school, and then teaching a lesson. So I was spending quite a lot this weekend working on that. And I think the tricky part is to plan it as you would any lesson and really think about adaptation so that these kids who you've probably never met before, how do you prepare to teach them and understand how you're going to be flexible if they're at a higher level or a lower level than you expected. There's a lot going on there, as well as doing a lot of planning and preparation. I also want to come across as quite natural and relaxed. And I think I'm cautious of bounding myself too tightly in the planning that I can't then naturally deliver the lesson as I would like to. So it'll be interesting. I'm excited. I really enjoy teaching, which is kind of handy.
I think you're going to be great. I have no doubts about you. I think if me and you were going up and I say I rocked up to a job interview,
I'd be terrified. If I
and you were there, I'd be like, Francis has got this. I'll take that.
I'd be terrified if you were there. There is no way. I think about sometimes with our cohort, if we turn up at a job interview with and few of us that were there from our cohort, I would be nervous, but we're all quite different. It's not necessarily the best person for a job. There's a best fit. And I think, some schools, a school will be looking for a particular style to fit in, to complement the people they've already got and so on. I think it's going to depend very much on the school and the individual to find that right fit. If you're ever at a job interview I turn up for, I'll be nervous because you should get it. But I'd be delighted that you'd be a great fit, I'm sure. So that's probably my worst nightmare about this.
I think my worst nightmare is, I don't know anybody out there who's had a lesson plan sprung on them. We had a head teacher come in and she said, I'm looking for originality. Did I learn something? I really worry about almost being too basic with my lessons and being boring. And I know what you're going to say, Francis. I am boring.
Honestly, you could deliver anything and I'd be absolutely captivated. The energy and enthusiasm you bring to anything, you won't be boring. Wouldn't worry about that, Jen. That is not a problem. If I've got to deliver a lesson to a group of people I've never met before, being observed by people who are assessing me for a job, I'll be honest, I'm going to aim to be pretty standard sort of format and deliver it in as fun a way as I can, but I don't want to try any crazy risks. I think this is keeping it simple. I think is going to be key to success for me. I don't know about you, but that's probably what I'm aiming.
I'm aiming for engaging, to have the students I'm teaching feel passionate about math like I do. That's what I like to leave a classroom. If I've got any kids going, I'd like to come back to her classroom, I feel like I've won.
I think you'll win. And I think you would be awesome in a pupil panel. If they ask you to talk to 3 Year 8 pupils for half an hour, I think you'll have a riot. If you get a pupil panel as part of your interview, you're in.
They'll be like, "Are you American?" I'll be like, "I might be." I've got a question for you. What's your favorite interview question that you've ever been asked?
Oh, that's tricky. So I've not done that many interviews.
Neither
The
have
cool
I.
thing in the military, they give you a new job every 2 years. If I've been involved in interviews, I love a question that allows the interviewee to take the initiative, the answer in a direction that allows them to really demonstrate their skills, their abilities, their personality. But I'm looking at a list now of potential interview questions, and I think the ones I'm going to find tricky are: what's the most challenging piece of feedback you've received to date? How did it make you feel? And questions along those lines where they're asking you to think deeply about, like, how do you reflect on the feedback you've been given? How do you then take that forward and use that to influence your future teaching, and about mindset and your approach? So I think questions like that, I think, will be tricky, but I can see why they'd be useful in getting a feel for how someone thinks and approaches a task and feedback.
Yeah, it's challenging.
But what about you? You must have something in mind. What would you be either nervous about or excited about as an interview question for?
I asked that question, and I probably should have had an answer ready in my head, and I didn't. That's how unscripted we are.
You'd be awesome. How would you structure your answers to questions then? Have you got any thoughts or tips in terms of how to go about answering questions in a logical way?
Yeah, so I tend to think of people. I've not been interviewed for a teaching job yet, but when I was interviewed, I remembered certain people, and I've changed names for various reasons, but I would remember, say, Veronica. Veronica would be my managing behavior individual. I would give that as a clear example of how I've helped somebody to understand their behavior or manage that behavior in a supportive manner, or kind of worked with them to develop their emotion management when I was working with young people. So I tend to pick people who can really showcase what I've done really well. And if I remember 4 or 5 different people, I already feel it's more natural because it's a story I'm telling somebody. I've something I've done really well. Rather than trying to remember specific answers to questions, I'll go, "Oh, this is a perfect example." And it then feels like it hits 3 or 4 different points because it's a memory of mine. Rather than going, "I think I'd do A, B, C, and D." I never feel like that works well for me.
I love that. I love the storytelling, capture their attention, and as you say, display lots of different attributes.
So, for instance, what's the worst bit of feedback I've ever had, or a really difficult bit of feedback I've ever had? I would use Adam. So, the worst bit of feedback was you left a pupil out who maybe you didn't pick up on. That hurt, because I like to think that I carry all pupils with me on their math journey. What I then devised is I used that to develop exit tickets so that when everybody leaves my classroom, I know I can assess them, every single person sitting in that classroom. I use that feedback to then make sure that I am bringing every pupil with me.
So you've set the situation, illustrated it beautifully, and then you've turned it into a real positive in terms of demonstrating you can get up after receiving some tricky feedback and do something positive with it. Okay, yeah, you've got the job.
Yeah, at this early stage, I don't feel like that's an uncommon place for me to be, because there's 30 kids in a classroom. I can only do so much. And the feedback was because he had asked a question, got it wrong, and I hadn't gone back to help him out. I had been so concentrated on getting through my lesson with my timings that I then left that child out. And obviously, that's not a good thing. But when I'm thinking about my timings, I can go back and correct that next lesson.
Yeah, and it's really tricky because we've got a bit of experience, but we've got to do that thinking through, like you described, to maximize the benefit from that experience and the reflection we've done since then, so that we've really thought through how we can use that limited experience to illustrate where we are and where we're going. I've been given some tips for answering your questions to use a format, talk about the situation, the task you were given, the action you took, and what the result was. So situation, task, action, and result, with another R on the end for reflect. And that's got to be one of the key things, describing what happened, what you did, and what the impact of that was. But then I think so critical if you're at this really early stage in your career, being able to demonstrate your ability to reflect. So I think you did that beautifully in your answer. I need to make sure I weave into the answers, being clear about how I've reflected upon experience to continue to improve.
I love that, because I think something that people are really talking about is being adaptive and being reflective. How many lectures have we had on reflective practice and thinking about models and different models? Our whole assignment is on reflective practice as well. And I'm all for it. I'm a firm lover of reflective practice. But to showcase that, nobody wants to put themselves in a bad light. And I'm confident that I believe in myself, that I know I can improve. And that's probably one of my biggest strengths, how adaptable I am. If I can put that across, that I'm willing to take that on board, and I'm not perfect, and I'm walking in knowing I'm not a perfect teacher, but I'm willing to learn, I feel like that goes a long way.
Yeah, I think that's it. I'm hopeful that when they're looking at us pretty inexperienced teachers who could be competing with very experienced teachers for roles, we can be seen to be demonstrating potential. That we're not the finished product. I don't think anyone is. That we're a long way from being the finished product, but we're going in that direction. We're going to continue to improve, and that reflection is going to be a key part of that. So that's what we've got going for us. We're still eager to learn at this stage in our careers. Hopefully that counts for a lot. I love you, Jan. It's a shame you can't give me a job, but thanks for the mini whiteboard, which says you would.
I'd give you a job. I'd give you a job over
We'll
giving me a job.
I'd still be nervous, very nervous. If you turn up, it's yours. We've talked about quite a lot, though. We talked a bit about what are we looking for in our jobs, our 3 words, where to find jobs, and when we're going to apply for those. I've said I'm pretty nervous about preparing for them. Where do we want to go next? Do we want to sort of wind up?
Do you have a plenary in mind? Is it more math jokes, less math jokes? Where are we at with the math jokes?
So that was an absolute whistle-stop tour of how to get a job in teaching. I think we need a little plenary activity before we end. Mini whiteboards again?
Yeah, we can do mini whiteboards again. That sounds great.
Class. On your mini whiteboards, I think this kids panel, I love the idea of being grilled by 3-year 8s asking me all sorts of questions. So I think we could go with something along the lines of what you mentioned earlier, which was, what 3 words would you use to describe yourself? So kids panel, you set there, 3-year 8s looking at you, and they say, sir, miss, how would a friend describe you in 3 words?
Oh.
So on your mini whiteboard, write down 3 words that describe you.
Okay.
And how would your friends describe you? Go.
30 seconds?
30 seconds is more you're going to get with the kids. So 15 seconds, go. The kids are looking at you. They're waiting.
Am I describing you? I'm describing you.
Oh, no, I'm nervous.
The kids are going to ask, how would a friend describe you in 3 words?
We should script this stuff.
We should really script this.
Right, wait.
Okay, I'm got mine.
Nearly there. Okay, I'm ready.
Do you want to go first?
If I was asked to provide 3 words to describe you, the first one is fun. Your style in everything you do is fun. You know, you're looking for the fun, the bright side. How can we turn this into a game? How can we make this into a joke? How can we enjoy ourselves? So I think that's going to be an awesome thing to bring to a school. Super energetic, and you don't stop, and you're going to bring so much energy, enthusiasm to school, and it's infectious. And that's why you'd be such a great person in a school, because not only do you bring a load of energy, but you make everyone else energetic as well. But alongside being fun and energetic, You're also really imaginative. The ability to come up with ideas from a completely different place in your life and bring them into teaching is really cool. I loved when you described that lesson where you gave them your shopping receipts and got them to analyze your spending. They got into the task. Love that. I think you're going to bring fun, energy, and imagination, which will take you most of the way there. That's how I describe you.
Oh, amazing! I'm going to take those. Take a screenshot of that and send it to me, because that's definitely my 3 words. So I got your first one as knowledgeable. Whenever you're engaging in conversations in university, and even these, I learned so much from you. I really enjoy how you love reading, you love learning. And I think that makes for a really knowledgeable teacher, because it links to emotional intelligence. You understand how people work. You get child development really well. So I think you're incredibly knowledgeable, and you don't give yourself enough credit.
Thank you.
I say my next word is innovative. I'll give this to you because I remember that start you did where you said 34. Tell me all the ways you can make 34. It was the simplest starter in the world, but it was amazing. If that's your teaching style, I'm so excited to see where you go. And I think you come up for really original ideas and thoughts based on your experience and who you are. So I think you're incredibly innovative.
That's very kind.
The third word is I find you very approachable. I think you're incredibly approachable and supportive, both of me, all of us on the course. And I can imagine your students, if there's something going on in their life, you just kind of bringing them along. I'm sure at one point in time we'll talk about mathematical anxiety and how to reduce that, but a lot of it will be that high quality relationship you develop with the kids and saying it's okay to make mistakes. That supportive and being very approachable will take you a long way. So I would use those 3 words to describe you.
That is very kind. In a quote I read once, your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness. That's something that probably won't come out with the kids, but kind of comes out in interview questions. So if your greatest strength has been really imaginative, how do you keep your feet on the ground? If your greatest strength is being approachable, can you be too approachable for pupils? Thank you. That's a good activity.
Awesome. Well, that was a good one. I really enjoyed that one. So next week, I don't know what we're talking about, but again, if anybody has anything they want us to talk about, please do get in touch. We would love to hear from just feedback in general. We love a bit of feedback, don't we?
At this early stage, you have the ability to shape the future of the podcast. Use it wisely.
Absolutely. Shall we sign off?
Until next time, goodbye, and we'll be back in touch next week.
Yeah, you're so formal. I love that.
I was aiming for approachable, but it came across as really formal.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. See you next week.
See you next week.
Thank you for listening to Fraction of a Teacher. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your fellow teachers or friends. New episodes released every Thursday morning at 5 o'clock.
Follow us on Instagram or TikTok at Fraction of a Teacher Podcast for updates, behind the scenes fun, and more content. We would love for you to get in contact with us with your ideas, any questions you have, or things you'd like us to cover. So please email us at fractionoat@gmail.com or message us on social media. Until next time, keep smiling.
And keep solving those problems.